Most riders don't realize their bike is illegal until someone in uniform points it out. Across public roads, more than half of modified motorcycles fail at least one compliance check, not because riders are reckless, but because the rules are rarely clear until enforcement gets involved. In this video, we're breaking down 17 motorcycle modifications drawn from real traffic stops and impound cases. And if you ride a modified sport bike, naked bike, or street build, there's one modification that leads to more seizures than any other. Most riders install it assuming it's safe. Missing it can cost you thousands. Number 17, non-approved mirrors. At a glance, mirrors feel insignificant. Small parts, easy swaps, something riders delete or replace without a second thought. But on public roads, mirrors are not optional accessories. They are legally required safety equipment written directly into vehicle codes and checked during traffic stops. In many states, at least one certified rearview mirror must provide usable visibility behind the motorcycle. That requirement exists because lane changes, braking decisions, and situational awareness depend on it. When riders remove mirrors entirely, install bar-end units that barely reflect anything, or bolt on stylish pieces without certification, the bike quietly crosses a legal line. Officers do not need sound meters or special tools to spot this. They see it immediately. No compliant mirror means an equipment violation on the spot, and the consequences do not stop with a ticket. Insurance adjusters notice non-approved equipment fast, especially after a collision. This one feels harmless until it is not. And if this is already making you rethink something you've done to your own bike, hit the like button, drop a quick hype in the comments, and subscribe. That's exactly what keeps us digging into real enforcement cases, not internet guesses, so riders don't find out the hard way. Non-dot mirrors catch riders off guard because they don't look aggressive, loud, or dangerous. They just look different. But once you realize legality is about compliance, not intention, the pattern becomes clear. And nowhere is that misunderstanding more common than with lighting, where riders trade visibility for style without realizing how quickly they cross a legal line. Number 16, smoked or tinted headlights and taillights. Most riders assume trouble starts with noise or speed. Very few expect it to begin with visibility, and that miscalculation is exactly why this modification keeps showing up in citations. Lighting laws are not about taste. They are written rules with measurable limits. On American roads, headlights are required to project white or pale yellow light. Taillights must glow red and remain clearly visible from a distance that allows other drivers time to react. Once a rider adds smoke film, dark lenses, or painted covers, that output changes. Brightness drops, color shifts, compliance disappears. What makes this dangerous is how easy it is to spot. Officers do not need gauges or inspections. Reduced illumination is obvious the moment the bike rolls past. Even slight tinting can be enough to justify a stop, because altered lenses are treated as non-compliant equipment in many states. Riders justify this mod as cheap style, a few dollars spent to sharpen the look. But dimmed lights increase rear-end risk and hand law enforcement an immediate reason to pull you over. And the moment visibility drops below legal limits, intent no longer matters. And if you think tinted lenses are risky, the next modification pushes even deeper into territory. The law takes very seriously because it's not just about brightness anymore. It's about color, signaling, and who the road thinks you are. Number 15, colored or flashing headlight bulbs. At night, a motorcycle's headlight is supposed to do one thing: help you be seen and help you see. Nothing more. But the moment riders install color-changing bulbs, pulsing effects, or so-called futuristic glow setups, that purpose gets buried under spectacle. American lighting laws are blunt. Forward-facing lights must shine steady and in approved tones, typically white or soft amber. Blue, red, green, purple, or anything that flickers is reserved for emergency vehicles or prohibited outright. The reason is simple. Unfamiliar colors confuse drivers. Flashing patterns distract attention. Reaction time drops when the brain tries to interpret what it is seeing. Officers know this instantly. A headlight that shifts color or pulses breaks expectation, and broken expectation triggers enforcement. No tools required, just eyesight. Quick check here. Have you ever run a colored or flashing headlight, even temporarily? Maybe at night, maybe just for looks, maybe because a shop told you it was fine. Drop your experience in the comments, because lighting violations are one of the most common reasons riders get stopped in the first place. And the outcome depends heavily on the officer, the timing, and the color you chose. Riders justify this mod as inexpensive flair, a quick swap that makes the bike feel unique. But that uniqueness comes with consequences: tickets, fix-it orders, escalation during stops. Colored bulbs are where many riders first learn that lighting laws aren't flexible. Certain colors are restricted for a reason, and once you cross that boundary, enforcement stops being subjective. But some riders don't stop there. They add light around the bike instead of inside it, assuming accent lighting is just flare. That assumption is exactly what leads us to the next modification. Number 14, underglow and accent lighting. Underglow looks dramatic in photos and parking lots, but public roads operate under different rules. Motorcycle lighting laws spell out what lights are allowed, where they can be mounted, and how they are permitted to behave. Accent lights that change color, pulse, strobe, or remain clearly visible while riding often fall outside those boundaries immediately. Many states treat underglow as non-essential lighting. That means even white or amber illumination can be prohibited once the motorcycle is moving. Colors like red or blue raise even more attention because they are reserved for emergency vehicles. Officers do not debate intent. They enforce visibility and distraction. Riders install these kits because they feel inexpensive and reversible. But legality does not scale with price. Visibility violations invite stops fast. And once lighting beyond the factory design starts drawing eyes, and that brings us to a modification riders install with good intentions, but that often fails the law's most basic requirement: being clearly seen when it matters most. Number 13, integrated or hidden turn signals. Clean builds love hidden details, and few changes feel cleaner than disappearing turn signals. That is exactly why this one slips riders into trouble. Turn signals are not styling elements. They are required communication devices. On American roads, motorcycles built after the early 1970s must signal intent clearly from both ends. That requirement follows the bike no matter how modern the parts look. The problem is placement. Many integrated or tucked units sit too close together, too low, or too far inside the tail section. When spacing collapses, visibility collapses with it. Drivers behind you lose directional clarity. Officers see non-compliant lighting. This is not theoretical. Rear signals are expected to be separated by a minimum distance measured in inches, not aesthetics. If a tail tidy blocks sightlines or compresses spacing, enforcement becomes simple. Riders choose these kits because they are affordable and sleek. Legality does not care about either. And once visibility and spacing come into question, the back of the bike becomes a legal minefield. That's exactly why the next modification, designed purely for aesthetics, draws far more attention than most riders expect. Number 12, fender eliminator and tail tidy kits. On public roads, the rear of your motorcycle has a job to do. License plates must remain clearly visible, mounted at an approved angle, and illuminated whenever the bike is in motion. When a tail tidy tucks the plate too far upward, angles it aggressively, or removes proper lighting, compliance quietly disappears. Officers do not guess here. They look for legibility. If the plate cannot be read from a reasonable distance, or if the light is missing or dim, it becomes an equipment violation immediately. Many stops start the moment a plate looks hidden instead of displayed. Tail tidy kits promise a cleaner look, and many riders install them assuming the manufacturer handled the legality. But this is where responsibility shifts hard onto the rider. Because the moment plate angle, height, or illumination changes, enforcement stops looking at the kit and starts looking at you. And for riders who push that cleanup even further, the next modification turns a questionable setup into an undeniable violation. Number 11, improper license plate placement or covers. A license plate feels invisible until it suddenly becomes the loudest thing on your motorcycle. Riders rarely think twice about it. They tuck it in tighter. They tilt it back. They slide on a smoked cover or a decorative frame and assume it is harmless. But this small change quietly crosses one of the clearest legal lines on the road. In most of the United States, a motorcycle plate must be firmly mounted, horizontal, unobstructed, and readable from the rear at a reasonable distance, day or night. When that plate is angled too far, partially hidden, wrapped in tinted plastic, or masked by a frame, enforcement becomes effortless. If an officer cannot read it instantly, the stop is already justified. And be honest for a second. Have you ever run a tucked plate, angled mount, or tinted cover because everyone does it and never had an issue? Or have you seen a stop start over something this small? Drop your experience in the comments, because license plates are one of those modifications riders ignore completely, right up until it becomes the reason everything else gets checked. What makes this mistake dangerous is how routine it feels. It looks cosmetic, it feels minor, but it is often the first reason a rider gets pulled over. And once a stop happens, everything else on the bike comes under scrutiny. That's when riders learn a harsh truth: the modification they thought everyone ignored is often the one officers check first, and nothing changes the tone of a traffic stop faster than what's coming out of your exhaust. Number 10. Aftermarket exhaust systems without legal certification. Few changes feel as satisfying as an exhaust swap. Deeper tone, cleaner lines, the sense that the bike finally sounds the way it should. But this is where many riders step over a line without realizing it. Because an aftermarket exhaust without proper certification is not a preference. It is a violation. In the United States, street motorcycles are required to meet federal noise and emission standards. That usually means an exhaust approved by the Environmental Protection Agency, clearly marked and intended for highway use. Systems stamped off-road use only, missing certification labels, or altered after installation fail that test immediately. Officers are trained to notice this. During a stop, the exhaust is visible, audible, and easy to question. What catches riders off guard is how fast this escalates. A loud pipe leads to a citation. The citation leads to inspection. And inspection exposes everything else. And that sets up number 9, where riders go one step further, removing emissions. But some riders believe they found a workaround, a way to ride quiet when needed, loud when wanted. And that belief leads directly to the next modification, one that enforcement sees not as flexibility, but as intent. Number 9, exhaust bypass valves and removable baffles. This is the modification riders don't just install, they defend. The idea sounds perfect. Quiet when you want to blend in, loud when you want to feel alive. A removable baffle, a rider-controlled exhaust valve. But legally, this is where intention becomes the problem. In the United States, a motorcycle exhaust is certified as a complete system. If it was approved with a baffle in place, operating the bike without it makes the exhaust non-compliant. The same applies to valves that allow the rider to open or bypass sound control on public roads. Federal and state laws prohibit tampering with any component designed to meet noise or emission standards. Once that control is defeated, the certification no longer applies. What makes this mistake costly is how obvious it is. An officer does not need lab equipment to question a bike that suddenly changes volume. And once discovered, this is not treated as accidental. It signals deliberate circumvention. That is why this mod escalates fast, from citation to inspection to deeper scrutiny. If this is the kind of modification you were told was only illegal if you're caught, hit the like button, drop a quick hype in the comments, and subscribe. That support is exactly what keeps us committed to breaking down the gray area mods riders argue about. Before those arguments happen on the side of the road, bypass valves and removable baffles feel clever because they suggest choice. Quiet when you need it, loud when you want it. But enforcement doesn't see flexibility. It sees intent to defeat regulation. And once intent enters the picture, the focus shifts away from sound and straight into emissions, the part of the bike the law protects most aggressively, even when riders never see it. Number 8, emissions system deletes. This is where motorcycle modification stops being cosmetic and starts becoming legal tampering. Loud pipes draw attention, lighting draws curiosity, but removing emissions equipment crosses into a different category entirely. And that is why Emission's system deletes sit this high on the list. On a street-legal motorcycle in the United States, components like catalytic converters, oxygen sensors, secondary air systems, and emissions-based engine mapping are not optional. They are federally required. Removing them, bypassing them, or disabling their function is considered tampering under the Clean Air Act. And that rule applies to everyone, manufacturers, dealers, shops, and individual owners alike. What surprises many riders is how seriously this is treated. This is not a fix-it ticket. Emissions violations can trigger fines that reach into the thousands of dollars per vehicle. With penalties that compound each day, the motorcycle remains an illegal operation. In states with strict enforcement, bikes fail inspections immediately, registrations can be suspended, and enforcement does not stop at the roadside. This mistake happens because riders assume silence equals safety. No stop, no warning, no problem. But once discovered, there is no defense. Emissions deletes rarely look dramatic. There's no visual giveaway, no obvious noise spike, which is exactly why riders underestimate the risk. But emissions laws don't care what's visible. They care what the bike is designed to do. And once hardware is altered, the next step many riders take happens invisibly, inside the computer that controls everything. Number 7. ECU tunes that disable emissions controls. This is where the line disappears for a lot of riders. Nothing looks different. Nothing sounds louder. No shiny parts to point at. Just a quiet software change buried inside the bike. And that is exactly why this modification is so dangerous. Modern motorcycles are controlled by electronic control units that manage fueling, ignition timing, and emissions behavior in real time. When an ECU tune disables oxygen sensors, ignores catalytic converter feedback, or shuts down emissions logic entirely, the bike is no longer operating as certified. Under United States federal law, that is considered tampering, even though nothing physical was removed. The law does not care whether the violation is metal or code. If software defeats an emission system, it is treated the same as cutting it out with a saw. What catches riders off guard is enforcement history. Federal agencies have aggressively targeted tuners, dealers, and shops selling these maps, issuing penalties that climb into the millions. Even major dealerships have been forced to stop sales, pay heavy fines, and undo customer installations. For individual riders, the consequences surface later. Failed inspections, denied registrations, insurance complications after a crash, a bike that suddenly cannot be made legal without expensive reversal. ECU tuning feels safe because it's digital. No missing parts, no obvious violations, just smoother power and better response. But legality doesn't stop at software. It extends to how the rider physically controls the machine. And when modifications start altering leverage, posture, and control geometry, enforcement stops treating the bike as compliant equipment. Number 6. Handlebars that exceed legal height or reach limits. Handlebars feel personal, a comfort choice, a way to make the bike fit your body. But this is where riders get caught off guard, because bar height and reach are not suggestions. They are regulated. Across the United States, vehicle codes place clear limits on how high or how far handlebars can sit when you are seated on the motorcycle. Go beyond those limits, and the bike is no longer considered compliant. Some states measure height from the seat. Others measure hand position relative to your shoulders or eyes. But the outcome is the same. Exceed it, and enforcement is straightforward. The reason is control. Extreme bar positions change leverage, slow steering response, and reduce stability during emergency maneuvers. That makes the modification visible, measurable, and easy to justify during a stop. Riders often assume comfort equals legality. It does not. A bar that feels relaxed in the garage can still violate the code on the road, and that leads directly into the next modification, where the part touching the pavement itself becomes the issue, and legality depends on markings most riders never think to check. Number 5. Non-DOT approved tires. There's a detail most riders never think about until a patrol car is in the mirror and an officer is walking toward the bike, eyes drifting downward instead of forward. Not to your helmet, not to your plate, to your tires. And the oversight here is believing rubber is just rubber. If it grips, it's good. If it looks aggressive, even better. But on public roads, tires aren't style choices, they're regulated safety components. For highway use in the United States, a motorcycle tire must carry a dot marking on the sidewall. That small stamp is a legal certification that the tire meets federal performance standards for heat, load, and structural integrity. Without it, the motorcycle is considered improperly equipped for street operation, no matter how capable the tire feels. Race slicks, pure motocross knobs, certain imported compounds. No marking means no legal clearance. That can trigger a citation during a stop, inspection failure at registration, and serious insurance pushback after a crash. What felt like extra grip can quickly turn into legal exposure. Non-dot tires cross a hard line because they remove certified safety from the equation entirely. Once that happens, the motorcycle stops being evaluated as a whole and starts being evaluated as a risk. And nothing triggers that shift faster than altering the structure the entire bike is built on. Because once a bike is flagged for improper equipment, officers start looking closer. And what they often find next is far more serious than a tire. Number 4, frame and subframe modifications. Some changes whisper. This one shouts just not to you, to inspectors, to investigators, to any officer who knows where to look. Because the frame is not decoration, it's the motorcycle's legal foundation, its identity, its certification. And the line riders cross here is believing metal can be reshaped without reshaping the bike's legal status. Cutting a rear section for a cleaner tail, welding new mounts, converting to a hardtail, stretching geometry. These aren't cosmetic tweaks, they alter structural design. In many states, that can void the manufacturer's original compliance approval, meaning the machine no longer meets the conditions under which it was cleared for public roads. Then there's the VIN, often attached directly to that structure. If it's obscured, relocated, or damaged, officers may treat it as tampering, which can escalate fast. Once a motorcycle's identity is questioned, roadside stops turn into impound decisions. Frame modifications are serious because they change what the bike is. At that point, enforcement isn't just questioning legality. They're questioning whether the motorcycle still meets its original approval. And for riders chasing a certain look or stance, the next step often pushes geometry so far that the bike stops fitting within any standard at all. Number 3, stretch swing arms and extreme geometry changes. Some bikes don't just arrive, they announce themselves from half a block away. Long, low, rear wheel pushed far past factory lines. And the miscalculation riders make here is thinking, visibility equals admiration, when to enforcement it signals inspection. A major swing arm stretch or radical geometry shift doesn't just change appearance. It changes how the motorcycle was originally approved to operate on public roads. Wheelbase, rake, trail, suspension angles. Those numbers determine stability, braking behavior, and emergency control. When they're pushed beyond design limits, the bike may no longer meet the safe operating standards required under traffic law. Officers don't need measuring tools. Obvious extensions, drag-style stance, or altered alignment can be enough for a roadside citation or even impound action in some states. It also raises registration and insurance problems if the alteration was never disclosed. Once a motorcycle stands out for the wrong reasons, scrutiny tightens, and what draws attention next is even harder to explain away. Number 2, removal of required safety equipment. Some violations are complicated. This one is immediate. An officer doesn't need radar, noise meters, or inspection tools, just eyes. And the lapse riders make here is treating factory safety gear like clutter instead of legal requirement. Mirrors gone for a cleaner bar line, signals deleted for a sleeker tail, reflectors pulled, plate light missing, even fenders removed in places that legally require spray protection. Those parts weren't installed for decoration. They're written into vehicle codes as mandatory operating equipment. Once removed or disabled, the motorcycle no longer meets basic roadworthy standards, which alone can justify a traffic stop. No speeding, no erratic riding, just visible non-compliance. Depending on the state, that can mean citations, repair orders, or being told the bike isn't safe to continue riding. After a crash, insurers may also question coverage if required equipment wasn't present. And when a stop begins with obvious violations, officers start looking, which is exactly how the top-ranked modification gets discovered. Before we get to the final modification, the one that ends more rides than any other, let me ask you something. If this video has already changed how you look at everyday normal mods, hit that like button. And if you want to support the channel even more and get early access to the newest breakdowns, becoming a member helps us keep this kind of research-driven content coming. Number 1. Straight-piped or excessively loud exhaust systems. Some modifications hide in details. This one announces your arrival 3 blocks early, not just to traffic, but to law enforcement. And the gamble riders take here is believing volume equals visibility, when in reality it equals attention of the wrong kind. Every street-legal motorcycle is sold with exhaust components designed to meet federal and state sound limits. Remove the muffler, the baffle, or emissions hardware, and the bike instantly falls outside legal compliance. Noise alone can justify a stop. Officers don't need instruments when the violation is obvious. From there, citations stack quickly. Equipment violations, emissions issues, inspection failure. In some areas, repeat offenses lead to impound actions. Insurers may also challenge claims involving non-compliant exhaust systems. Loud pipes don't just make sound. They start conversations riders rarely win. And once a motorcycle is flagged this way, every other modification comes under a microscope. And if this video made you second-guess a modification before bolting it on, then it already did its job. Click the next video to continue the road trip, where we break down what actually keeps riders legal, insured, and riding instead of walking home. Join the tribe by subscribing. If you want to support the channel and get early access to the newest videos, become a member. And don't forget to like this video. It tells the algorithm this is the kind of information riders need before the lights come on.